Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Recognize Your Level of Crazy and Manage It with EQ when you're dealing with life's big questions. And today we have an amazing guest with us, Hans Wilhelm. Hans is the author and illustrator of over 200 books for all ages, together with Byron Katie. His books have sold over 40 million copies and are translated into 30 languages. As a mystic, Hans has recently created over 100 short YouTube videos in which he visually explains the spiritual laws of the universe. And in these videos, you can watch him drawing the dynamics of these laws and see how connect. This absolute unique visual presentation has made these videos so successful that they have been watched now by over 14 million viewers. The videos are also available for free on www.lifeexplained.com. And I just want to say that Hans, his mission is to inspire viewers to explore spirituality and to look at the bigger picture perspectives of their life. When we see how everything fits together and nothing happens by chance, we will begin to grasp the perfection and the love that is the foundation of our life. So let me ask you, actually, now that I think of it, if nothing happens by chance, then me and you speaking today, what would you say about that?
Not by chance. No, there's no such thing like chance. Everything is carefully orchestrated for us and by us, for our growth, for our awakening up. Yeah, everything is here to help us. Everything is here to bring us home.
So in the process of being so nervous, Hans, I forgot to even say who I was. And I'm sure that many people on my channel would know who I am, Ala Esther Levy, emotional intelligence specialist. And this channel is designed mainly just to help us understand that we all have a little crazy going on, and it's just a matter of recognizing it and then managing it with the variety of tools that life gives us. And this is one of the tools, is having someone like Hans here with us to share with us these big questions that we have about life. So Hans, let's continue down this path that we just started about nothing. And one of the first questions we have is destiny versus free will, and how much of our destiny is running our everyday life, even to the point of, do I write with this pen or do I write with this pen? Do I make this right turn or do I make a left turn? Do I call Hans? Do I not call Hans?
Well, the way I see it is that everything that we are facing and what we are coming in contact with is what you may call destiny. It is, again, created by ourselves and for ourselves, for us to wake up. So every situation throughout the day which we find ourselves, I call them the building blocks of the day, are there for us to wake ourselves up, which means the person we meet, the situation that we sort of fall over something, whatever it is you may call it destiny, but not in the Eastern tradition of fate, that is Allah gave you that and you have to live with it. No, we created it ourselves. It is basically karma coming back to us. But what we do with that at the moment, how we either react or respond to the situation, that's where the free will comes in. Our free will originally created this karma. Let's, for instance, I did something horrific, and over time, this comes back to me as karma. It can be an illness, can be an accident, or whatever it is. The law of karma is definitely there. And that we can call a destiny of a blow of fate, but I have created it through my own free will. And then I face it eventually myself. And again, now I have the free will. What do I do with it? I can make it worse. I can really get angry with it. I can make it really intensify the negativity. I can also just react to it and be very upset about it, or I can respond to it, which means I look at it and see what does it teach me? How can I clear it up? How can I undo it? So we have got all the free will. God did not create robots. We are spiritual beings with free will. That was the greatest gift God, the Creator, gave us, is the free will. So at any moment throughout our life, we can always choose. And if we cannot choose the circumstances around us, we always have the choice to change our attitude towards. This old question, is the glass half full or half empty? The glass is what it is, but how we see it, we can choose. And if you are spiritual and developed a certain kind of mystic understanding, you see that the glass is neither half full nor half empty. The glass is always full, because for the mystic, he will also understand that the other half, which is air, is as important as the water. So for the mystic, he appreciates both things. But that's a science. But we can always choose of how we react to, respond to every situation from day to day. So every day is filled with moments of phone calls, of interruptions, of uncomfortable feelings, whatever comes up in us. Everything is carefully orchestrated. There are no accidents. And if an uncomfortable feeling comes up right now, out of the blue, you don't know, you don't see anything, but something, you think about something which happened maybe in your childhood or whatever it is, that is the moment to deal with it, to just send love, forgive it and bless it and move on. So nothing happens. So we unfortunately very often push things back and says, oh, I don't want to deal with it, either with have a drink, a coffee, have a Netflix movie or whatever it is, whatever is your choice of medication, self-medication. But that is not very smart, because basically all we are doing is we are shelving that kind of event until we face it again. And we are never given too much. Everything is carefully orchestrated in a way that we never have to face our bad karma, very bad karma, to more than we can handle. Everything is given in small doses so that we can carefully handle it and can overcome. So nobody gets killed by their own karma, so to speak, because we are giving in very small doses. Furthermore, whenever something happens to us, something disastrous, like an illness, like a blow of fate, we always get warning symptoms before. The universe gives us warning symptoms, which makes us feel, oh, now I'm coughing, maybe I should give up smoking or something like this. So if we are very carefully and observant what comes up throughout the day, then we can avoid a lot of the drama of the karma.
So let me go a little deeper with you on this. Example, I had visions of being in a particular relationship for many, many years. And when I finally met Tom, and I entered into that union with him, initially I didn't, when we first started working together, I didn't even imagine, getting into that union. But as time continued and my visions got stronger and stronger and stronger, would you say that, then why would we follow through on certain visions? It's visions are coming from somewhere outside of us. That's, I guess, where I'm saying about destiny versus free will. You could choose to be with this partner, or you could choose to take this one job or go into this one line of work, because it's a constant vision that you keep seeing years and years and years, and you feel like you have to be moving towards that. Where is that coming from?
I don't know whether there's one answer here. The way I see it, it can have several answers, because a vision is a picture, it's an image which we have and which we want to achieve, or which we want to owe, and so on. This can come from our higher self, from our soul, and this is something which for us to drive it. It can also come from negative influences, and unfortunately, that is very strong, particularly in our youth at the moment. I made a video on wealth, fame, and wealth and fame. And there it shows that the youth is very much driven by images of becoming very rich, becoming very famous and very powerful. And this is something which are negative images, which are injected into the mind. And this is sort of basically the wrong goal in life. And they're really, because it comes from the feeling I'm not enough. And this constant feeling I'm not enough drives us further and further and further to pursue these goals. And we never really reach it. And this is a very sad kind of vicious circle we find ourselves. So there are some pictures or some images or some goals that we have, or some have, which are not coming from our higher self. They are initiated by negative forces, and the negative forces do it on a very personal, a very specific purpose. Because whenever we do not achieve our goal, and we feel even more so, we are not worth it, we are not good enough, etc., this creates a lot of negative energy in our body and our psyche. And that negative energy is food called lush energy for negative forces to feed on. So they are very, very interested in having us on negative level energies. So this is just in a point where which I feel to mention, we have to be very careful. What are our visions? What are our goals? Are they coming from selfless love, or coming them only from filling some vacuum, some holes in us? And that is also okay if we work on it. For instance, I realize I feel very insecure, and now I want to do something about it. That is okay. But if I now look for a partner to help me to protect me from my insecurities so that I can feel secure, and someone else should just sort of be the one who feels secure for me so I can feel secure with that person, that would not be helpful. That would be really detrimental to your development of a soul. So it's always important, why do I want that vision? Why is this good? Is it really good for everyone else? Does it come from selfless love, or does it come driven by holes or lacks which I sense in myself, which I mentioned earlier with the youth feeling not good enough, particularly when they go to the social media and they see the likes and getting enough likes, and what it's comparing themselves visually, physically, how they are, etc. Constantly, they are bombarded by, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Look at other ones, they're much, much better. This constantly grows in you. And then the demand and the desire comes to become rich and powerful with any means. And that's sort of a sad thing. That's something which is manipulated, and we can fall into that trap.
So, so this concept of karma, where does it start, basically? So, for example, you know, let's say somebody was, and now the person robs, you know, you have the original person that was robbed, and now you have the other person now robs the other person. So at karma start? Where did it start? Who initiated the karma?
The karma goes way. Well, the first things, if we can go basically back to the creation of the relative reality of the mirage we are living in right now, that was the first time the first of the spiritual being had a negative thought. This is basically when we left the pure absolute reality and fell into the realm of space and time, also the relative reality. That's where we are right now. And this is basically because the spiritual beings continuously had selfish negative ego thoughts. So that grew over time. And this is the same with anything else. It grew over time. For instance, let's say a young child feels not very comfortable and constantly hears from the father that's no good and that's bad, and what he is not worth anything. So he and maybe gets hit by the father. So eventually he becomes a bully. The father may not be a real bully, but the next one, feeling insecure and taking all these messages from the father in, becomes a bully. So the action from the father continues through the bully of the boy, and then the boy does something horrific to another schoolmate, etc. So the bullying, it gets bigger and bigger. To find out who it started from, we have to go way back. I think nobody can say where a particularly action started from. It always implies that some unsettling emotions is in a person, and he or she has always the choice to either react, which makes it worse, or to respond and says, oh, I'm not going further with here, etc. So this is basically it. When in my videos, and this is my videos, I think they are so successful, I explain it a little bit. And what I do for your audience, I do it visually. When I explain how karma works, being sort of stored in this body, in the soul, in the person, and the karma, etc., It's abstract, but when you see it, like here, for instance,
Right.
like here, this guy, for instance, is hurting this one or stealing from him. So this is a negative act. This negative act is now stored in the soul of the perpetrator, then also in his body, in his genes, in the Akashic records, which surrounds our planet, which everything is recorded, and most of all in the repository planets of the material and semi-material universe. So this is where all the karma is stored. And eventually this karma will come back when these planets, they're constantly moving, as you know, from astrology and so on. And when they are full, they eventually send it back to the sender. Everything is sending and receiving, sending and receiver. It can be in this lifetime, can be many, many lifetimes later. And the person will experience a similar or same fate that he has given to someone else. And then out of this, he can either become more aggressive and maybe next time he kills somebody directly, whatever it is, or he can have some insights and says, why do I have this? What happens? What do I have to forgive? What do I have to let go? So we always have to chance for love, because all we have to do is to love, nothing else. There is nothing else to do. And in every situation, love is always the answer. Now, it sounds maybe a bit sweet and a bit sort of trite.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah, but it is. And eventually, to every person in our life we have come into contact with, whenever they die, the only words to say is this, thank you and I love you. And even to the biggest horrible person in our life who has been very nasty. But when we understand that this person came into our life for our awakening, we thank him. And also understand that any so-called negative person coming into our life, we most likely have made an agreement with prior our incarnation. A soul agreement says, please come into my life, show me my weakness, face me, challenge me. Because life is nothing than a big college. And it's very difficult to get here on Earth, on planet Earth. The souls in the spiritual realm really fighting to come to Earth, because Earth is a very, very unique planet. Here on Earth, we have got souls of different vibration from different levels of consciousness meeting together, which is very unusual. The rest of the spiritual realm lives by the law of like attracts like. So they have got here this group of people, here this group of people, here this group, and you're basically facing each other all the time. Here on planet Earth, we are encountering many, many different beliefs, societies, and so on. And here we have the opportunity in only 25,000 hours, which is days, which is very little, to really clear up a lot of karma. And we know this. And everybody came here and agreed to come here in this very tough school, and has said yes to whatever challenge we will face, because we knew prior our incarnation what more or less our challenges will be. So we have agreed to this, and now we are here and we are facing this. We don't remember it, of course. We don't remember our past lives. All this is done on purpose so that we act from love and not from our intellect.
So, you know, not like, there's so many amazing directions that this can all go, and all the questions are kind of flowing into one another, which is wonderful. But sometimes I want to just kind of nail down an answer, but it may not be that easy. So when we talk about the karmic debt starting in a place where we really can't nail down to who started it. So what you're saying is it's basically one of those two individuals started it in the Akashic records back in the day when we made this agreement to be soul, you know, when we were souls and before we came down, right? And we made this agreement, and the karma must have started up there somewhere, but we don't know who initiated what. Is that? It's
really not important to see how the original karma comes. The fact is that I am now facing somebody who threatens me with my life. Is not a coincidence. So either I have done that in a similar way to someone else, or even to that person who is threatening me now in a new lifetime.
So you just deal with it from today, from this moment.
From this moment, and in this moment, I have to make a decision. How do I react to it or respond to it? And that is all which matters. If I think too much, where does it come from, etc., etc., I get lost.
I know, but it's so fascinating.
It is fascinating, but there is a reason. You see, when we incarnate, we go under the veil of forgetfulness in Kabbalah, which means we do not remember our past lives. And this is done on purpose, because if we would really know how horrific things all the horrific things we might have done in previous lifetimes, and life on this planet Earth was horrific. I mean, in the Middle Ages and so on, you couldn't go from village to village without fearing for your life. So most likely we have done awful stuff. And if we remember all the killings and murderings which we personally might have initiated, we couldn't live, we couldn't breathe. So it's forgotten. That's one reason. The other reason is, even if I know that, for instance, my mother, that I was awful to my mother in a previous lifetime, and now my mother is also awful to me, if I now understand that this is basically karma, and I then make a decision to now be nice to my mother, then this comes from my intellect and has virtually nothing to do. My decision to now be loving to my mother, even if she is brutal to me, must come from my heart, must come from love. Therefore, it's purposely veiled from us what happened in the past. So every decision, every person we meet, every situation we meet, we must learn to respond from love, as difficult as it is. And even if we do never know why it happened, but that is our task. And it means also to love our illnesses, to love our situations, to love having lost our job. I know this sounds very difficult to grasp, but not until we truly love it can we move on. Because anything what we do not love keeps us in prison. To think about it, everything or anybody whom we do not love keeps us in prison. Yeah. And if we want freedom, freedom comes only through love, through selfless love.
So let's talk about why the fall, your video about why we're here. And, there was this fall, and there was a group of souls that decided that they didn't want to play nice anymore, and they fell. And so the question is, why? If we were these amazing beings in this amazing blissful place, why would we do that?
Good question. First of all, where it happened was is a seven-dimensional reality, which is difficult for me or anybody else to grasp even. And what I'm sharing here is only that what the spiritual world has given us through channels, through prophets, and so on in great detail, the way that we can more or less grasp it. Yes, it doesn't make sense. Why would we leave that? But sometimes we do things. It happened very early in beginning of the creation. There was just this one moment where there was an energy, let's create our own kingdom. This is not God's kingdom, we want our own kingdom, sort of where the ego basically developed. And because the first time you were not in harmony with love, and everything is vibration. You and I are nothing else than vibration. We are energy and vibration. There's nothing else. Even matter is nothing else than vibration. We are talking about a vibrational event. And this vibration of lower vibration sort of automatically separated itself, and it created what we call the relative reality versus the absolute reality, which is a pure heaven. And this is where we are now. And most of us have now realized it wasn't a good idea. And most of us are on the way back home. And it's basically the famous story of the prodigal son, which Jesus told as a parable. The prodigal son who leaves his perfect home, makes no sense why he should leave this wonderful home with his father, but he wants to go into the world, explore the world, and he does. Of course, he falls right down, sleeps and with the swines, and just sort of finally he turns around and says, this is not a good idea, let's go home. And he is welcomed when he returns by his father home. That is basically the basic story which you and I and anybody is living, irrespective of what religion we are and whatever it is. This is our return back home, return to our true identity of who we are, which is love. And anytime we do act against love in our thinking, in our speaking, in our feeling and so on, we are just separate. We are not ourselves. We are hardwired to love. That is our natural being. And as long as we are fighting our natural being, we will not find that inner peace much. And that is where we should be going through. And I think anybody who has ever experienced this inner peace through meditation or through exercise will know that there is simply just nothing else more beautiful than that.
So Hans, so given that we fell, and some of us, obviously the ones that are down here, are these souls that made that decision. You know how in the church they call us sinners, right? So would you say that that's what we are? We're sinners because of that situation, or that's just something that the church likes to?
it's sin is such a loaded word. Everybody interprets the word sin differently. Somewhere says it's just the Aramaic word means missing the mark. It's a direct translation of sinning. You can sin, you can call it a soul burden. Yes, every time we act against the law of love, we are burdening our soul with a negative vibration, which is the vibration which is then stored in our soul in the Akashic record, as well as in the planets. You can call it sinner. I try not to use that word because everybody gets, what is this, and so on. We are all in the same boat here. We all have loaded our soul with negative selfishness. And as such, yes, we are all sinners, but I stay away from any church teachings because it gets you in big trouble. There is no eternal damnation. Everybody returns home and everybody will be home and everybody comes home and it's guided home. We have got our guardian angel. We have got our spirit guides. We have got, everybody has their helpers. Everything is here to guide us home, and every illness, every situation is here as a stepping stone to come home. So everything is happened for us, but not to us.
So that's actually one of the questions is that does everyone return home, good and bad, people that are here that are, let's say, technically good and technically evil? So does everyone go back home? And then two, this existence that we know of as Earth School, you know, we're here doing our things, going to work, having this interview, everything we're doing. Does this all eventually stop? Does it just, you know, one day we're gone, that's it?
No, you're not gone. you are an eternal being. Every human being, every soul is an eternal creature, lives forever. There's just no way. It's not like with some Eastern philosophies, which they said you are sort of going back into the soup of creation or whatever it is and lose your awareness. No, according to my understanding and the teachings I believe in, is very strongly we maintain our self-awareness all through period. Yes, and everybody returns. What kind of God would leave any of his children behind? So even the greatest sinner eventually will return. It's like falling the deepest, like an alcoholic who has to fall really, really deep before they turn around. And some just need a longer path to return home, but everybody will return. And once everybody is returned, and all the planets which are loaded with karma and so on, basically give up their existence, this whole relative universe, this whole relative reality will also disappear. It just automatically has disappeared because this whole, it basically what this whole was a little bump in creation. That's how I call it. It's a bump in creation and we happen to be in that bump because of selfishness, but the bump will eventually, and it will be all the absolute reality. And in the absolute reality, we will live forever and in a 7-dimensional form, which I don't even dare to describe. I do not even try to, but we will have a unique awareness, and we will also be very busy there involved because it is the eternally evolving, eternally expanding universe, which means there is a lot to do and a lot of work for us because continuously the planets and the heavens are expanding. So that's where we'll be most likely, and we will have a wonderful time. That's what I'm told. Oh, I maybe even remember on a small way, because we all came from there. It is not that we have to start from a very low level and try to grow. No, all we have to do is to wake up who we are. That is the path, to wake up who we are. Nobody is wiser than anybody else. You are not wiser. I'm not wiser than anybody else. We all have the same experience. We all know where we came from. We all have left it, and we know exactly how everything is built. Unfortunately, through our worldly teaching and very much through our religion, organized religious teachings, we have totally forgotten who we are, truly are, and how we come back. But there have always been paths. There have always been voices who reminded us to do this. And so the word has always had guidance, and God in his way through many, many prophets, angels, or whatever you wish to call it, has spoken to people and guided them and helped them to move on and free themselves, because God and freedom is the same word. And the key is to become free again, which means for also the restraints of our organized religions. I think that is very important to free ourselves. I'm not saying everything is bad in it, but when they try to limit us in a tribal way, that you have to be this and etc., otherwise you are the only ones to come to God because you must be believe in my kind of whatever teaching. then we have a problem, and that limits us. And this is a problem with many of the lower spheres in the spiritual realm. There are a lot of groups of religious teachings, and the souls do not grow there because they are just interacting and saying the same things which they know as well, and so on. So they are stagnant, really stagnant. So we here on earth have the opportunity to see a broader vision. Says, oh, there are people doing this and that, maybe. So we can ask ourselves, what do I follow? And the answer is always within ourselves.
So what I'm hearing you say is, I had a glimpse when you were talking about the seventh dimension. As Pisces, we talked about earlier, Pisces tend to be a little bit more intuitive, than maybe the average. I don't know, but I also knew you have to develop that. And so over the years, I've definitely worked very hard to develop my own intuition. So when you were talking, I had a glimpse of a little bit of an understanding technically, that we had this maybe moment where we just wanted to try a new reality. We just wanted to experience something different. And maybe that's what caused the fall. Then we got down here and we're like, oh no, this is not what I want, So, okay, now we're working our way back up. And once we all return, then that's what I was looking for. So all the planets and everything will disappear, but we will continue the work because there'll be more work to do on a different level, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then as souls, from what I understand, we continue. We have our own level of consciousness with the way we come in. The body is different, but our soul is still the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Throughout all of our existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm understanding, right?
The memory of that will be there. Yes, the memory of our past lives and existence will be there. Yes, we will have that.
But is there, this is a very unique question, actually. The soul itself, like the unique, there's experience that I had where it was just nothingness. It was like a moment of just darkness, and there was just nothingness. And it was just, I had this moment in time where I felt like the I am, I never really got the concept of the I am, but it was a moment where I felt like Esther was just, it was just a piece of clothing, but there was nothingness. And then there was all the memories of all the different experiences that Esther had. But it really felt lonely in there. I'll be honest. I felt like, oh my God, it's so lonely in here. Like, I don't even want to be in this darkness. It's like, there's nothing. Do you understand what I mean?
I understand what you mean. I don't think that seems to be the best, necessarily the highest vibration you have been in there. Of course, we can come into different kind of realms where we meditate and so on. I would go for the inner peace to find this really profound peace, which is not, in my experience, the black darkness. It is just in total inner peace, which takes you totally over, where you have this sense of feeling of how we might be feeling in the higher dimension. And I think that we can achieve this higher deep peace. I think God is peace, and God is also now. It's being in the total here and now. That is where God is, and God is absolute simplicity as well. So we do have all these kind of things to be. Yes, I can understand we do have maybe visions of blackness and hopelessness and whatever it is, but that is not my experience and my understanding from where we will end up. No, it is the realm of light, because we are light beings, and a light ether is what everything is made of. The vibration I mentioned earlier, the energy and the vibration is nothing but light ether. And the light ether is all there is. And we are part of that light ether, and we will be back in that light ether. And I see that will be more a realm of light.
Okay, so I'll keep working, because that was definitely not the right destination. Okay. Okay. The other question here is, so we were talking about different dimensions, and one of the very important questions is, are there advanced beings that, and I know you did a video on this, but are there advanced beings that are interacting with us, and are they supporting us, or are they hurting us, or both?
There is definitely a whole army of spiritual, we call them angels, spiritual beings who definitely help us at any given time here on Earth. We have got our personal guide, our personal guide, our spirit guide, guardian angel, we can call them. They are all not from this Earth, so basically you can call them aliens. But they are here to help us and also spiritualize everything. But unfortunately, they're also negative entities, as I mentioned earlier, who use our energies of war, of fighting, of killing, all the negative energies, and use them as their life source. This is how they get their energy to exist. So they are very interested in us to have a very negative kind of life, and a destructive life and a painful life. These are the wherever there are wars and so on, these are the feeding grounds of these negative souls. So yes, these are kind of aliens as well, who are here on Earth and who are infiltrators. And they can also infiltrate us individually. They can inject ideas into our head, as I mentioned earlier, the wrong goals in life, for instance, anything that can be sort of even sexual way in a way, etc., or any drugs or whatever it is, says, oh, I want this one, I want this one. And we can lose ourselves and lose our energy that way. We do have these two major things, the positive and the negative entities. In addition, of course, the whole universe, even the relative universe, is populated with other souls of different vibrations, of different frequencies. So we do have planets, which are aliens living. I myself don't occupy myself too much with that. That it says too much on the internet. Too many people seem to be expert on it and want to know all the good things, bad ones and the gray ones and whatever it is. And I say to myself, since it doesn't affect my day-to-day life, I just leave that away because it's for them to do. But there are these souls. But the higher we get, and we are here with the material universe very much on the lowest form area of the relative reality. But the closer we come back to the absolute reality, the higher the spiritual beings are evolved. And then they live in a very different way than we do. They do share, they don't have ownerships, they would never enter a competition to put someone else down. They, of course, respect the environment, they respect the animals, they see them as their little brothers and sisters, and they respect the elders and so on. They have a totally different way of life than we have. And this is where we will grow to. Sorry, what did you say?
I'm jealous.
No, well, we will get there too. It just takes a bit of time. We will get there too. So yes, there are these highly evolved realms. And there are many reports of seers who have been there in their spiritual journey and reported from them. There are wonderful books by Dolores Cannon, the Convoluted Universe. I think there are 5 books where she speaks through hypnosis with a lot of these spirit beings, the people who come from different alien forms. It's fascinating work to read. But in the end, for me, it doesn't get me anywhere. I have to be aware that there are negative forces that can easily lure me in any kind of temptation. And I know that there are positive forces in case I ever feel low. So I can go there to get my energy and say, stay with me, be with me, help me. I have to go through this. I don't want to face it in a negative way. And I get instantly jolts and help here in this respect. So yes, we can work with these, be aware of these forces and work with the positive ones, and stay away from the negative ones and see them, how they work. When we see other people and so on, how they are caught up in their negativity and their negative behavior pattern and so on, etc. And you can really see sometimes that they are in the influence of these negative forces. Or aliens, they're basically aliens, possessed people. And possession and soul possession is very, very big. And I think that is a lot of the insane asylums are unfortunately full of people who have been possessed by negative forces.
So while talking about insane people, let's talk about family. Family relations, right?
Yes.
So family and friendships, how do you deal with these kinds of relationships when you have a toxic person, let's say, in your understanding of a toxic person, someone who's just, always negative, always dramatic, always trying to create some sort of drama. And what is your level of obligation to these people, whether it's a family member or a friend?
Well, for myself, I would firstly look at myself, because everything the outside world is a reflection of me. If I am in an environment of a toxic person, then I have to ask myself, what is in me toxic? If I've got somebody who argues a lot, what am I arguing with? Had somebody is war, what are that war in me? Because the outside world is always there so that we recognize ourselves. So anybody who comes into my life and gives me a hard time is reflecting something back in me. Like attracts like. This is the old law. So my first reaction would to look at myself and says, where am I doing the same thing? Or where do I desperately want to do the same thing? What I suppress, the other person expresses. Mm-hmm. In my law of projection video, I explained it in greater detail. Yes, so I think that is very important to firstly look at myself. There is no coincidence why I'm in this situation. And that person is nothing else but a savior for me, to help me to wake up, even in the most horrible and nasty way. So I have to recognize where is my part in this, where it is this same situation in me. And the response is always with love. And I mean, nobody should be abused, physically abused or verbally abused. I mean, this is full understood. We have to stop it. When we can stop these things, we stop them. It doesn't mean we have to linger on it because to keep our lessons going. No, we stop any form of abuse, not only for our protection, also for the other person, because the other person is basically also loading more karma on himself by continuously abusing me. So we stop it for his sake. We do this out of love, not because he's bad or whatever. We do it as a stop. So we protect ourselves as well as the person creating more negative karma. So that is the first step. What are they reflecting back to me? This is always the answer. And there are no coincidences that we have them in our family, because we are, again, we can only incarnate into a family or an environment which corresponds with our soul vibration. So if there's anybody in the family who is not, there's definitely something in us as well. Now, the family may change from lifetime to lifetime. When we no longer have any issues with that person, we no longer may see them in the next family constellation. But we can be also different. That can be the parent this time, next time we are their children or whatever it is, it always turns around. But for as long as we have still unsolved karma between us, they will be there in most cases. Sometimes, and very often as well, I must say, family members incarnate to help other family members, not because of karmic reason, but to be helpful. For instance, if somebody is handicapped or has got a major problem, sometimes other helpers come and incarnate and says, I will help you through this period. So out of pure selflessness and love, they come and incarnate to help this person to go through their karmic experience.
So when that's an interesting thing that you're saying, because that was my next question. I love how this is just organically flowing like this. Do we travel with the same souls in every single lifetime, or is it based on assignment of the lifetime? So what you're saying is interesting. So for example, let's say I'm traveling with my family, and next lifetime, will I be with the same family, or is it based on the assignment, right? And who assigned? I know there's like a million different questions here, and I'm sorry about that. Let me get myself together. Basically, my soul and their soul agreed to come together and go, okay, we got to work on this assignment. And so based on that assignment, we come into the physical reality and do the work. So next lifetime, that assignment might have been finished already.
And so you may not come in with the same person in your family, because you no longer have any karma with them. You're done with that person.
So does that mean we won't really necessarily see them in the next lifetime? We won't feel them. We won't. It's over. Like, this is it for us.
Well, maybe, yeah, but don't forget, the incarnating here on Earth is not our life. It is only 25,000 hours. It's a very short visit. 800,000 hours, 25,000 days. This is all becoming. It's the same like you're going to the movies for 2 hours. You're going into a different world, a emotional world. Sometimes you go with your brother, sometimes with your husband, sometimes with your kids to the movies and have fun together. So you change the person you go with to the movies. And the same is the incarnation here. This is not our life. This is only a very short period, like being in college for a few years in college. And yes, it's not all that important whether the person who is very, very dear to us will be there next time as well, because they will be waiting or will be there in the spiritual realm again when we return, when we come out of the movie and return back. We will not lose anybody. We are always together with anybody who is close and loving us. We are in a spiritual sense in some of extended families, and which we are all in, and we will always be part of that family. So very close people, we will always be together, not necessarily in the next lifetime, but in the end, and it's between lifetimes, which used to be always a very big space between lifetimes, we will be together with these souls. So it's only a temporary little separation, which we shouldn't be focused on too much.
Yeah. So would you say, like me and you, for example, you know, when I find out, you know, I wanted to reach out to you very early on when I started watching your videos, but I thought, okay, whatever, it's fine. And I wasn't ready, you know. And then when I finally reached out to you and you actually wrote back, I felt like, oh my gosh, that means that we're connected on some level, because how else could we connect if we weren't on the same frequency? So I felt it's kind of like that, is from what I'm understanding that you're saying, is that eventually after we're all gone back home, the people that we're connected to, even someone like yourself that I feel very much connected to because of our beliefs and the things that we're trying to do in the world, we will ultimately feel each other again. Maybe not see each other because we will look different, but we will feel each other again. Is that correct?
It's possible. Yeah, I think our link together is that you and I, we both are trying to bring a bit light into this world. You are helping your patients to find relief from their pain. I do this with my spiritual teaching. So we are very much in common there. And we are both in a way sort of helping people through their difficult periods. So that can be the only connection there may be, and maybe never maybe see each other again. And that's fine too. And maybe we see each other again. I don't know. I wouldn't put too much into it. Whoever needs to be in your life will be in your life. And whoever has no longer anything to do with you to help you to grow, or for the purpose of teaching and so on, will no longer be there. It goes all very smooth, very automatic and very gentle. And it's if we just go with the flow, as it says, it will all work out. So the people you have to be with, they will be there. The people you don't have to be, they will just move on, and you will love them as much as before. And if we meet again, that's fine. And it's just a very natural and a very organic kind of existence where everything comes to us at the right time. The same as when we are born is the right time, and we all die on the right time, and nobody dies earlier, nobody's later. Everything is well timed. And this means also the interaction we have with other people. And if we use it like we do it now for the benefit for others and so on, I think that's the best thing we can do.
So Hans, a very good statement that you just said. There was, you know, the situation right now with the pandemic. A gentleman that I listen to sometimes says, and I get where he's coming from because he might be coming from a different school of thought. He's saying there's all these premature deaths. It wasn't necessary. You know, we could have stopped it if we knew the information, whatever. So if everyone dies on time, then he's looking at it from a, I don't want to say a non-spiritual perspective, but is it that he's just not, is it that those souls, because your recent video was talking about how we, you know, we all know that we were going to come down here during a pandemic. And so that means then that we knew that a pandemic would happen prior to us coming, or some sort of dramatic situation would happen and we would die. So I think what happens to us as humans, this is my own perspective, and I think that maybe some of my viewers and your viewers may relate, is that I think we make things very personal. For example, like the pandemic versus another situation, maybe like I don't know, World War, whatever. It's not always like that. It's whatever happens. It's like a general thing happens, and now we're all dealing with it as souls. And how you deal with it today is really what matters. And it's not like so specific. And I think that's what we're trying to nail down, is the specificness or specificity, or I'm sure I'm using the wrong words and I apologize, but I don't think it's that specifics that is really what's happening here. It's more of a general perspective of that these things happen in this realm, and then we just deal with it. And not to get too caught up in, was it a pandemic versus a war versus politics versus whatever. Am I right? Am I going down the right
Well,
train?
I think I would basically agree with you. The problem is very often that we can attract things through thinking about it. I mean, that is the power of thought. And so if we fear the pandemic, and if we really make this a big issue, then unfortunately we are sending out vibrations which can actually call this upon to us as well. So we sometimes have an influence on our time of death if it should end in a death and so on. Yes, we do have that power, but our day of death is predetermined for the most part at birth time. So we all have to die, and death is nothing else but birth in the spiritual heaven. It is basically just a graduation day. It's just we leaving this college. It's just that our society is so utterly scared of death. Now, I understand, I'm also afraid of dying painfully. The idea of dying there without being able to breathe and so on, I'm no better. I hate that. But if it comes tomorrow, just like this, okay, fine, it's over. This dream is over. I get out of this movie and go back to real life. So I think we are mostly more afraid of the pain and the long suffering and what all this kind of dementia and all this kind of thing which are connected with death and long illnesses and so on. But death is a natural thing, and we should also see it as such. Now, the pandemic is not necessarily a natural thing. That is karma. That is karma coming back to us, and everybody is differently affected by it. And again, the only way to do here is stay in the here and now, as you said it. How do I deal from it from day to day in a way? What can I do right today? What can I do? A lot of people also, for instance, simple thing like staying healthy, something which has never been mentioned in the media as far as I see. It's always focused on the vaccine. But how many people are reminded, try to stop your diabetes, try to be overweight, do some exercise, do something for your body, it's to make your body healthy, look at your diet, etc., etc. These are very simple, not easy, but simple things which anybody can do to bring their body already into a higher vibration. So there's a lot we can do from day to day, even if we don't have the illness. So right now we can focus on a much healthier lifestyle instead of being sick and we also have the benefit of now most of us being at home and not in the office, etc. The whole rat race as we are used to be in, from office to office, etc., and deadline, can now be managed differently. And we have got maybe a different way to deal and with our time and do things in a much more healthy way. We have time to meditate, and we can be more relaxed and whatever it is. So we can use this time positively as well in many ways. So does it answer your question, or is it more specific?
Yeah, just to kind of go like a tiny bit deeper was, so basically the person that died of the pandemic, let's say, there's a lot of people that are like, oh my God, this person died of COVID and blah, blah, blah. And it is tragic, and I'm sorry that happens, but would, on a spiritual level, would that person have died anyway on that specific day, regardless of corona or not?
You can't exclude the corona. The corona was probably the way they determined prior birth that this is the way I will go. So okay. I don't think you can really say without the, but again, yes, I would say most of them die right on time here as well. But our response is always to help the person in every possible way. Even we can't say, all right, you're supposed to die, let you go and die. No, our response is selfless love and attention to do anything possible to not let this happen, which also makes this transition easier, with morphine or whatever is necessary, etc. We are here to serve. Love, which is the highest form of being, is nothing else than selfless service. And the service is what comes first for us. If we do not have the COVID and someone else in our family has, it's service, which is what we are how we respond to. So we're helping the person, whatever it is, and divinity will then decide whether it's a time for the person to leave or not. But we will do everything to keep the person here. What is how says reasonable. I do not believe in extreme extension of life. As in the video, I do not believe in organ transplantation and all those kind of things. But there are reasonable steps we all can take to make this transition easier. And this is what we are here for. And then divinity will decide, is this the time for the person to go or not?
So the work that we're doing here now, right, in this lifetime, would you say, and I'm sure at some point we answered it, but would you say that we get brownie points? The harder we work in this lifetime, the more brownie points we get, and it's worth doing the work because it does affect us in the next realm and the next life and the next life and the next life. Or don't worry about it, you can always make it up in the next one.
I'm hesitant. What you're calling in brownie points is what people call the good karma. Do I build up good karma, which I can use maybe later and so on? I think that's a similar way of looking at it. I see it slightly differently. When we do something good, this is our natural way of being. This is how we truly are. And karma is actually something which is opposite to it, and that is stored. This is a negativity when we are not ourselves, when we are selfish. That is a negative vibration, that is stored. So karma is a negative thing which will eventually come back to us unless we solve it through forgiveness or whatever it is. But positive things we do, like you call it, making brownies, is our natural way of being. And it is not stored in the causal computer, it's stored in the universal computer, in the absolute reality. But it doesn't need to come back to us, because the moment we open ourselves are more loving, more loving, more loving, we are then getting more energy from divinity, more and more. So the energy we are getting back is not our brownies, our good karma. It's just that we automatically open ourselves to our true being. And when we become more loving, everything in our life around us will also become more loving, because our vibration changes and we no longer will attract the negative people we attracted before, because we are no longer in that field. So positive action, what we call good karma or brownies, is nothing else than us waking up and becoming more and more of who we truly are, which allows then divinity to work through us more and then brings us also a more peaceful life. Sometimes. Now, there is an exception here, and this an exception comes from selfless love. We can be highly evolved being, very open, very little karma, and we can try even, but then make a decision to incarnate to help another person, and then take over their karma. That is possible as well, or even be helping here, so that person can still have a difficult life, but it is not karma coming back to them. It is their selfless service to another person. And we do this the higher we come. At the moment, most people say, oh, I don't want to come back if there's reincarnation. I want to be done with this. But the higher we come, we will understand that I can only enjoy love if everybody else is saved as well. And then we come back and help other people.
Good stuff. It's a lot of work, Hans. It's a lot of work.
And we're on the lowest level probably, but yeah, it's going up. It's going up. I mean, now we know how it goes. Now we know there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and we can do that. And you do it in your way, and every day we do it more and more. And the more we, like you do it for your clients, and I do it with my videos and with my books. The more we do it for others, the more we will hopefully open up our own kind of channel and become more brighter and brighter, not for our sake of saving, but just to be the little bit more light here on this earth, what we can be. And you are in your way of doing it in your way. If you're emotional helping, I think it's so important for people to go through their emotions and understand the emotions and to clear up the garbage.
So Hans, two last questions. The first one is, you talked about how you got into this work. It's fascinating to me how you were you went to see a medium, and the medium came out and said your father was there. And it was so interesting to me how that initial feeling for you, like when he said that to you, how did you feel? And what, like, did you go through a process of like, oh, okay, it's just confirmation, no big deal. Yeah, of course my dad's there. Or did you have like a moment where you had to step back and just go, okay, wait a second, you know what I mean? So how was that for you?
Well, I never doubted that he is doing well on the other side, and I also never tried to contact him. The way that I went to the medium was because it was a book signing. I didn't expect or wanted anybody to speak from the other side, because I want to leave them. They have their own things to do. They don't need me to ask them anything, and they're not necessarily smarter only because they're on the other side. But I was a total surprise when my father came through, and he said to me that he is, quickly said, my father didn't believe in life after death. And when he died slowly, I told him before he died, he says, look, when you die, even if you don't believe in life after death, these are the things which most likely happen to you. There'll be this, you will be received by angel, whatever, etc. So he just smiled, and then he died shortly thereafter. But and when he came through, I was still surprised, and he said to this guy, he says, well, he said to me, he wanted to thank me for having told him this, because it helped. He is now working on the receiving station of souls who died, and you see how many souls arrive on the other side, totally confused, not unaware that they're even dead and things like this. So he said to me, write books. What you know is so important. Share that with other people. And my first reaction is this: oh, no way, I'm not writing books about this one. They don't sell. Spiritual books don't really sell unless you have a real big followership or whatever it is. And this is, so I thought about it, and then it says, well, I want to reach young people particularly, because they are still in the air for searching and so on. They're not fixed and set like most old people are. So I decided that the place they were at that time before hip hop was YouTube. So I made YouTube channel, and they have become so very popular in that. So that is basically the reason. I didn't write the books he asked me to do, but I shared it with my videos. And I think the videos are very helpful. It's according to the emails I get from around the world, that people, because the videos are different. There are many spiritual videos on the YouTube, but what I say is, when I show these things, I draw that, because I'm an illustrator. And basically what I do, I illustrate the spiritual laws. And when I draw them out, it becomes so much clearer, much easier to understand. Yeah. Because when I buy something from IKEA, I must see where I have to put A to B and so on. I have to visually see it. If I read it, I would never get it.
Right. 100%. Yeah. And your videos are, they take these complex conversations and they break them down, and they say adults, learn kind of like children. And I know I'm like a 3-year-old, if you want me to learn something, tell it to me like a 3-year-old. Yeah. And once I get it, I can tell the world. So yeah. I think you did the right thing. But I think it's so fascinating how that you're at that level where you're so nonchalant about it. You're just so like, oh, okay, dad came through and had this message for me, and okay, no problem. Like that's admire. I'm inspired to get to your level.
And well, once you believe on the other side, well, you do it. I'm sure you do. It's just a surprise that he even takes the time. Yeah, when you don't look for it, it comes to you.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's true, and it's kind of like the intuition thing. When I don't try too hard, I get these crazy downloads, and I can see the future, and it's really mind-blowing, the things that I see. But when I try too hard, forget it.
Yeah.
So the last question here is how do we move forward from here? How do we, so many people that are suffering in terms of there's so much division that's being created, and we know it's being created on purpose. Dividing people, creating illnesses, all these things. So how can a lay person, just take this information, and what can they do to just move forward in a balanced, harmonious way through what's going on right now?
You are right that a lot of these things are made personally for negative energy and against. That's true. And this includes the pandemic and everything else as well. Mm-hmm. The only thing, the way I see it, is number one is gratefulness. Focus on gratefulness. As I said earlier, we are here given a unique opportunity to incarnate to planet Earth. The amazing school. Watch my video, The Amazing Earth School. that is a very unique opportunity where we can clear up our karma in a very, very short time. And anything that comes to us, negative or positive, is here to help us, to assist us. To grow and to wake up. So if I have a situation, if I have to be grateful for the chair you're sitting on, for the computer, for the video you're watching right now, be grateful for everything that you see. And this includes also the negative things, because the negative things are the real teachers, and the negative people in our life are the real teachers. Our friends often don't tell us the truth, but the friends, the enemies, they tell us what is still unsolved in us. So anything so-called negative is also here as a stepping stone back home. So the best feeling, the best strength, the best medicine we can ever give our body is gratefulness. I've made a video on gratefulness. If you want to watch it, how the endorphins help or stimulate everything. It is very powerful when you really see that this is a very special opportunity for us to be here on this planet Earth at this particularly difficult time. And it is there on purpose. And we have said yes to it, and we wanted it before we incarnated. And now it's here. It's like being at Yale or at Harvard and so on. And now we are here having these difficult classes. But once we are through with it, we are graduating, and then we will free of this karma. Yes, it's in illness the same way. Illness is nothing else than an outflowing of karma. You are free of it. It's gone. It's like paying a big debt. Suddenly, you no longer owe anybody $100,000. It's gone. So this is all things to be grateful for. From morning till evening, live in the form of gratefulness. And then the next step is to learn to love absolutely everything. Absolutely everything, everything and everyone, to just, because this is love. Nothing else is love. This is what we are. This is what we are hardwired. This is our true essence. And this is what we came here to do. It's not easy, but it remind ourselves to love it and stay in the here and now, because thinking too much of past karma or future and so on will take us away of what we have to deal with right now. What is the emotion coming up in me right now? What do I have to deal with it right now? That's where the answers for life are. The answers for life are not in big books in the future or in the project of the past. The answer in life is always in front of us, in the here and now.
Thank you so much, Hans.
Yes, it was it was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your wonderful question.
Yeah, this has been such an amazing opportunity. And, you know, maybe as time continues, we can maybe do a part 2. I'm always open, you know, because I think as you continue, you will have more insights, and I will continue to have more insights. And it's always such an amazing thing. I felt like when I was preparing for this interview, you know how they say, if you could have anyone over for dinner, who would you have? And I was like, I would have Hans over for dinner. So I felt like
and I would come because you're vegan.
That's right.
Okay.
So, and I have to say, we're 90%. I want to be always honest. We're about 90+% vegan. We do cheat sometimes, but we pray.
Same here. We are not 100% either.
Yes, we do our best. And you know, we're just human. You know, we're spiritual beings on this journey, just doing our best.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
So thank you so much, Hans. And
thank you for inviting me.
We'll stay in touch. So thank you again.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Got the recording off? No.
I think so. Hang on one second. Let me see here.
No, it's still on.